Welcome back, everyone, to SANDCAST Beach Volleyball with Tri Bourne and Travis Mewhirter for another solo episode of the pod. So Tri Bourne and Evan Corey just played in the AVP Huntington Beach qualifier. Took a fifth. He's out there solo in California. I'm here solo in Tallahassee, Florida, and then we're going to be back together. I'll be going out to California in May. But another solo episode. So we had a busy past couple weeks and got a lot to break down. So we got the three sort of vectors of beach volleyball. We got the NCAA Beach Volleyball National Championships in Gulf Shores this weekend. That'll be the first stop on this solo episode. We got the AVP qualifier, the second of three qualifiers for the league. That'll be stop number 2. And then we got Volleyball World. I know I'm a week or two behind after the Brasilia Elite 16, but there's a lot of macro elements to talk about, and that's what we're going to be getting to. So I literally just returned home from the NCAA selection show where Florida State, we got that 8-9 slot against Long Beach State, and then we'll be playing into the winner of UCLA and Chattanooga, the Sandy Mocs. So congrats to them for winning their conference and making the tournament. But NCAA champs coming up. So it'll be May 2, 3, and 4 in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And Gulf Shores, so Huntington had originally signed a 2-year deal to take the national championships this year and 2026. Both of those off the table. It'll be in Gulf Shores. They just did a 7-year extension, actually, through 2031. It's one of the coolest national championship cultures, I think, in all of NCAA. Up there with Omaha for the College Baseball World Series. It's just awesome that they go back to this seemingly random, beautiful beach town in, of all places, Alabama, and that's where the national championships are. It's unbelievable. ESPN does a great job with the setup. The tournament hosts, whoever puts it on, the NCAA does an awesome job with it. The television crew does a great job. Now, if you haven't been, I highly recommend it. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. That is going to be on the ESPN family of networks. So it'll be ESPNU, ESPN2, and I believe the actual championships might be on the flagship, the main channel, but if not, it'll be on one of the ESPN channels. So it'll be UCLA, they got the 1 seed. I was actually a little bit surprised by that because UCLA lost to USC and Stanford in the MPSF championships, and then I thought that TCU, who has been kind of my number one all year, especially now that Tanya Moreno is back from an injury, I thought it would have been TCU. TCU instead grabs the 2. Then your top 5 is rounded out by USC, Stanford, and LMU. Huge congrats to Stanford. So they made a blitz through the MPSF tournament. They won that one. It's their first conference title in school history. Massive congratulations. And a shout out to Billy Allen. So in year 2 with the Cardinal, he might have been the missing piece as Stanford. They beat UCLA. They beat USC twice. So they're coming in with a whole lot of momentum into the national championships. While I'm giving shout-outs, a huge shout-out also goes to Boise State. My good buddy, Alex Bernardos, he's been the head coach there for a couple years now, and they won the Southland Conference title, beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and their coach afterward, Corpus Christi, said, "I'm stunned." She was shocked that Alex and Boise State, they have a really exciting pair, Ava and Addison, on what's typically their 1s. They shifted them down to 2s. I don't know what their lineup looks like for NCAA champs, but they are really fun to watch. Huge congrats to Alex. I first met him actually at a flight school that Chase Frischman was putting on. So it was me, Taylor Crabb, Troy Field, Chase Frischman, and Tony Rodriguez, and we did a flight school camp at Boise State, and that's where I met Alex, and we've stayed in touch in the years since, and so I'm always rooting for him unless he's playing us. So big congrats to Alex, big congrats to Boise State, their first NCAA championship appearance as well. Congrats to them. More first-timers. Texas. So Stein Metzger, Angie Akers, Will Buchanan, a huge shout-out and congrats to them. First real season at Texas, and they beat us twice at the CCSA Conference Champs. So we beat LSU, lost to Texas, down to the losers bracket we go, beat LSU again, then we lost to Texas again. All 5 matches. We're going to 3 sets, although the 5s was tied at 20-20 in the second after our 5s, Jordan Bulwer and Kenzie Holquist, they won the first. So maybe they would have taken it in 2. We'll never know because Texas won a 25-23 barn burner in 3 on the 2s. They won in 3 on the 4s, and then they won in 3 on the 3s as well. So Stein can build a program. He built UCLA from the ground up. He's building Texas from the ground up, and he's doing it in a hurry. And so their first round matchup will be up against Cal. That is an exciting one, and the winner of that, I believe, is in the 2-15 bracket, and 15 is Georgia State. And so if between the winner of Texas and Cal will feed into TCU, and then it's just all bets are off from there. It's NCAA beach volleyball. Anything can happen. Teams that weren't in the tournament beat LMU, and LMU beat everyone there is to beat. So Gulf Shores is going to be awesome. It'll be, again, May 2, 3, and 4. I'm excited. It'll be my first time going there as a coach, and my first time there, period, actually. So my first open tournament that I ever played was in Gulf Shores next to the NCAA Beach Volleyball Championships. I didn't know it then, and at the time it was really funny. Me and Delaney laugh about this every now and then because she was playing for Pepperdine, and I was there. We didn't know each other. We wouldn't meet for another couple of years, but we were close. We were in the same vicinity. So Austin, Delaney, the full family, they'll be going down to Gulf Shores. I got second in that tournament, by the way. Cramped out, and I've learned how not to cramp since. So I'm excited. It'll be fun to see from a coach's perspective, but from a fan's perspective, I think that they have always done such an exceptional job. So moving on to vector number 2, the AVP. So again, I'll just give a quick refresher. So you had a couple spots left to qualify for the league going into the year. 4 for the men, 4 for the women. There were 3 qualifiers, all in Huntington Beach, to earn those last 4 spots. If you won the first qualifier, 16 teams single elim, you got in. If you won the second qualifier in Huntington Beach, that happened on Saturday, you got in. If you win the real heritage event in Huntington Beach in 2 weeks, you're in. However, if a team who's already in the league wins that heritage event, then it's going to trickle down to points. And so far, heading into Saturday, 5 teams from the men, 5 teams from the women had qualified. Now we got Kame Schock and James Shaw. They went gangbusters, smoked 4 straight teams by an average of 15 to 9.5 per set. And as a reminder, whether you like it or not, the sets are to 15, 15, and 15, not 21, 21, 15. So Kame and James just blasted everyone. And that's hard to do, especially in rainy, windy conditions that they were in Huntington Beach. And no one even got to 15 before they did, and no one even got close. They ended up beating Sean Cook and Brian Miller in the finals. It was Sean and Brian's second straight final. And so that kind of puts them in the driver's seat to qualify via points. So right now you got 6 spots taken up with 1 tournament to play. The best thing that Sean and Brian are rooting for is for Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander to win, Andy Benish and Miles Partain to win, Phil Dahlhauser, Trevor Crabb to win, or Chase Budinger and Miles Evans to win, or Kame and James. So they want a team who has already sealed up their bid to win that one, so then it's a trickle via points where they're currently the points leader. Now, how do the points work? So it is your best 2 out of 3 finishes from these qualifiers, but one of those finishes has to be from the heritage event, which is a single elimination in Huntington Beach. So even though Sean and Brian got second and second, they can only use one of those seconds. And same goes for Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison. They got third and third. They're only using 1/3. And so it's Sean and Brian sitting on a second. They're the leader in the clubhouse as far as points go. You got Avery and Wyatt sitting on a third, and then nipping on their heels, you got Cody Caldwell, Ryan Wilcox. They took a third after taking out Wilcox's old partner and my partner, Tri Bourne, and Evan Corey. So it'll be a 5th place for Tri and Evan, 5th place for Theo Bruner and Troy Field, 5th place for Tim Baumgren and Paul Lottman. So you got maybe 5, 6 teams vying for 2 spots heading into that last tournament in Huntington Beach. And this is sort of the theater that the AVP was looking to create. Everybody loves a race. That's why the Olympics are so fun to watch. I think that's why you guys loved the Road to Paris so much, and that's why I'm going to be hyping up the World Champs race as much as I will be in the coming months, and I'll get more on that in a second. But it's going to create really compelling theater now in this heritage event because you got 2 spots left to qualify, and you got 5 or 6 teams vying for it, and it's going to be fun to watch. As you have no margin for error. It is single elim. It's do or die. I'm still doing that. Freudian slip. If Tri and Evan Corey lose first round, they're out. If Troy and Theo lose first round, they're out. If Sean and Brian lose first round, now they got some things to think about. Avery and Wyatt, same thing. So you got a lot of teams in contention currently. That'll cover the men. Sorry, just checking the notes. This is what the card's looking like today. And Austin is a fan of using these notebooks. A lot of trash trucks, dinosaurs, dumpsters on these pages, so sometimes it might get a little bit mixed up. As far as the women go, so same situation as the men. Coming into Saturday, 5 spots had been taken up of the 8 in the league. So you had Kristen Nuss, Taryn Cloth. They were Kristen Nuss, Taryn Brasher. I'm going to give myself maybe a 2-month window where I can phase into the Brasher, as I mentioned on the Volleyball World broadcast from Brasilia, before I can start getting minus points for calling her Taryn Close. So Kristen Nuss, Taryn Brasher, also loved seeing them this weekend at LSU. They were wild-carded in, back onto the Austin Aces. Melissa Humano Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson, wild-carded back onto the Palm Beach Passion. Then you had Tony Rodriguez and Gina Urango, they defending champs, back with the San Diego Smash. Kylie DeBerg, Haley Harward, they are back with the Dallas Dream. And then Corinne Quiggle and Megan Rice, they won the first qualifier, and so they were in. So those 5 teams were in. Lexi Denenberg and Julia Scholes, they clinched their ticket, and what a way to do it. They took down, their first 3 matches went to 3, so they barely beat Macy Jerger and Madison Shields. Then they barely beat, I believe, Zolani Hodel and Tegan Van Gunst. And then they had an epic one with Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw, 19-17, 17-19, 16-14, if I got it right, 15-13, almost. And it was 15-13. And then in the finals, up against the Heartbreak Kids, Abby Van Winkle and Savvy Simo, they won 16-14 and 15-13. Lexi and Julia, I think one of the most exciting teams you have on the women's side. Nobody serves tougher than those 2. Nobody hits harder than those 2. And they're just such good human beings. I loved coaching Julia last year. I hope someday down the road I'll get the opportunity to coach Lexi, because she is great. I guess I kind of did. I was in her box when she played with Delaney, my wife, in New Orleans a couple years ago. Awesome. Such a high ceiling for that team. It's good for the AVP that they are in the league, because they're a fan draw. They're one of the most exciting teams to watch. So now, just like the men, 2 spots left, and what a race we have. So Devin Newberry, Jaden Whitmarsh, points-wise, they're sitting on a 2nd from that first qualifier. Savvy and Abby also sitting on a 2nd. And you got Kelly Chang, Molly Shaw sitting on a 3rd. You got Therese Cannon, Megan Kraft sitting on a 3rd. And then you got, to me, it's between those 4 teams for the final 2 spots. And again, the best thing that those 4 teams can root for is to have someone who's already in the league win it if they're not going to win it themselves. So they're rooting for Kristen and Taryn to win. They're rooting for Mel and Brandy to win. Tony, I don't know if Tony and Gina are going to play together. I don't know if Tony's going to play. Actually, I don't know how that's going to work, if they're going to stick with their international partnerships, if Tony's going to stay with Kylie DeBerg, if Haley's going to go with Molly Phillips. TBD on that one. But that Huntington Beach, the Heritage event, is going to be pretty high voltage. A lot on the line for that one. And I'll be tuning in wherever that one ends up being streamed and being televised. As far as the AVP goes, that is, for the most part, it. And I think that it's going to be, they've wanted to create a high tension environment, and they have. I'm intrigued. And, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm wildly supportive of the 15-15-15 format, or I'm a tournament guy, right? And I think you guys all know that at this point. But Huntington is all that much more interesting because of what's on the line. And so a credit to the AVP for that they've created a lot of tension, a lot of intrigue, a high-stakes environment for Huntington, and it's must-watch theater. And that's what you want if you are a sports business. And so good on the AVP for creating that. Moving on to the last vector of this solo pod, to the Volleyball World Beach Pro Tour, otherwise known as the Volleyball World Lucky Loser Tour. And why do I say that? So we've had 3 Elite 16s now. We had Quintana Roo, Mexico. We had Saquarema, Brazil. And we had Brasilia, Brazil. And 3 straight times has a team made the women's final after getting, quote-unquote, knocked out in the round of 12. So Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft, they lost in the round of 12 in Mexico, got resurrected, took a silver. Tamala Cordelli, Victoria Lopez, they get knocked out in the round of 12 in Saquarema, get resurrected, they win a gold medal. I still do Barbara and Carol. Carol Salgado and Rebecca Cavalcanti, they get knocked out in the round of 12. They come back, they make a final, and they lose to Kristen and Taryn. And there's gonna be a reevaluation period to see if this format sticks. I hope, for the love of all that's holy, that it doesn't, because it just goes against everything I stand for as a lover of sports, that you can lose in advance. And I think that there's a couple different ways you can do it. Obviously, I'm a double elimination purist. I think that you can do a double elim, even if it's a 2014 format and you win your first and you lose your second, you go backwards. You can still incentivize it with, if you win your first, lose your second, and lose your third, you will have more points, more prize money, and a better standing than if you just lost. AVP used to do it, thought they did it right. But what you can also do, and I'm sending emails to the FIVB for them to, when they do their reevaluation period, is you take all the losers from that round of 12 and then you have them play off against each other to see who then advances into the quarterfinals, which adds only a couple matches, and it might be a little bit more strain on the body, but at least you have to earn your way into the quarterfinals. So hopefully there's some compromise there, because I think it's an advantage if you lose, you come back to life, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't even be in the tournament anyway. I got nothing to lose. I should already be out, so we're just going to screw it. Let's throw it to the wind, and that's what we've seen on the women's side. I haven't seen it as much on the men's side, but yeah, for the women, it's just become the Lucky Loser Finalist Tour. But for Kristen and Taryn, huge shout out to them. They have not needed it at all. They won a bronze in Mexico. They won a silver in Saquarema, and they completed the podium sweep with a gold medal in Brasilia. They look fantastic. Kristen just willed that win into existence in Brasilia. And I was talking with their coach, Drew Hamilton, who I love and admire so very much. And I said, it's such a good sign and indicator for that team that they can win a tournament of that level, of that magnitude, when Taryn is playing at maybe a C- to her abilities. And I think that she would acknowledge that as well. That wasn't her best match. Kristen just said, screw it, I'm not losing. And they didn't. And they won a gold medal. Big congrats to them, and a big congrats to their bank accounts. And so the Elite 16 money, if you win now, it's double what you would have won previously in 2024. So their prize money is up, their medal count is up. Big congrats to Kristen and Taryn on the nuptials. Kristen just said yes to the dress. Great job. Taryn got married. All good vibes for TKN. While I'm just going to stick on the women, and then I'm going to shift to the men international. The Klinger sisters. Goodness, what a hot start to the season. They have had 3 straight fifths, and it's not that they've just sort of like snuck around and kind of managed these fifths while not really beating anybody. They've beaten a who's who of the powerhouses in beach volleyball. They've beaten Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw. They've beaten Anna Patricia and Duda. They have beaten Carol, not Barbara and Carol. They've beaten Carol and Rebecca, and they beat Valentina Guittardi and Claudia Scampoli, who aren't a team anymore, but that's a team who won a gold medal at a challenge. Pretty dang good. And I still think I'll say it every time that team comes up, that I think Valentina is one of the most sensational athletes we have on the Beach Pro Tour. And then you have that young Dutch team who just stormed their way through the qualifier, lost the first set of the qualifier to Britt Bauer and Maddie Anderson. Shout out to them. Go Knowles. Hopefully I'll start working with them on the World Tour this year as well. But they go out of the qualifier, and they take it all the way to 4th, siding out at 64% for the tournament. And they just knocked out one American team after the next. So they knock out Britt Bauer and Maddie Anderson. They knock out Therese Cannon, Megan Kraft. They knocked out Tony Rodriguez and Kylie DeBerg. And then they challenged Kristen and Taryn in the semis, and they challenged Anna Patricia and Duda for that bronze medal, which Anna Patricia and Duda wound up winning. So Wies Beckhaus and Emmy Van Driel playing really well, and I root for them because that was the team that should have gone to the Olympics in Paris, except for the Dutch Federation. Their rule was that if you hadn't taken a 5th at an Elite 16, a 5th or better at an Elite 16, you hadn't proven yourself to be competitive where we're not going to waste the money to send you to the Olympics if you don't actually have a hope of getting a medal. So they got that fourth. Now, I'm hoping that they don't need to do it again in the next Olympic quad, but that's just how good that young team is. So I'm happy for them. I've been watching the Van Driels, or as my buddy Nick Lucena calls them, the Vin Diesels, since they were kids, basically winning King of the Courts when they were teenagers. Delaney actually played either Emmy or Maxime, I forget, when she won a gold medal in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. And so I root for them just because I think that they got a pretty raw deal, getting shut out of the Olympics. So good on them. Really fun young team to watch. As for the men, that was the first time we have seen Miles Partain and Andy Benish play a tournament in quite some time, first time of the year. So Miles was trying to get his eligibility back to play indoor at UCLA, fell through. They weren't planning to start their season till Ostrava. So you know what, if I can't play at UCLA, let's just go to Brasilia. So they took a ninth. Wasn't a sensational tournament by any means, but they beat Kame Schock and James Shaw. They got absolutely blasted by Poland in what has to be one of the worst professional matches Andy has ever played, and I commentated that one. I didn't even know what to do or say. Just couldn't pass the ball, and that of course led to some very reasonable non-overreactions from those watching, saying that Miles has got to pick up James Shaw. And to that I just say, let's relax. All right. James, an incredible talent, and maybe someday down the road that could prove to be an awesome partnership. But let's not forget that Andy and Miles took a fifth at the Olympic Games, that they are one of the few teams on the planet with a decent batting average against both Sweden and Norway, that they've proven that they can win back-to-back medals at an Elite 16 stage. Let's pump the brakes. It's their first tournament. We'll see how they perform in Ostrava. Theo Brunner is their new coach. We'll see what kind of changes he implements into their system. But they took a ninth. They lost. They got knocked out by a really fun Austrian team, Timo Hammerberg and Tim Berger, who I think are playing really well. They beat Sweden's twos. I'm not really worried about Andy and Miles. I love Andy, love Miles. I'm biased to my close buds. But I think that if we're having these panicky reactions after their first tournament in 6-7 months and they took a ninth at an Elite 16, I'm okay with it. Interested to see how they do. The other big one that I wanted to shout out is Johnny Pickett, the new young blocker from Canada. So when Dan Deering retired and my buddies Jake McNeil retired, I haven't seen Alex Russell play. I was wondering, where's Canada going to go? Last fall, Sam Schachter was playing with this young kid, John Pickett, who I'd never heard of, jumps crazy high, super athletic, and then what do? They come out and just whack Cuba. And Johnny has 8 blocks in a single match, 21-15, 21-14. For the year, he has 80 blocks in 16 matches, so he's averaging 5 blocks a match. And I asked Shannon, Sam, who is this kid? He goes, Johnny is smooth. And sure enough, he is smooth. They had to drop out of the AVP qualifier. Johnny got a concussion, got hit in the head by Christian Sorum, which they only lost that first set 22-24. So that's showing how high of a level they can play at as a team, despite Johnny only playing, I think he's got 5 international events to his name. So big future for Johnny Pickett. He's also siding out at 62%, 59% in transition, just 23 years old. Bright future for him. It was illuminating also, while we're sitting on the men, to see Anders and Christian. They were playing some of the best beach volleyball I've ever seen them play, which is saying something. They have this sort of renewed focus and swagger. They go up 11-7 in the third set against Vandro and Arthur. And at that point, you think this is Norway. That's ball game. Game over. Well, then it's 14-12. Brazil sides out 13-14. Who do they serve? Anders, who received 0 serves. Not 1 serve in his first 2 matches. Perfectly in system, dimes his pass, Yahtzee swing, blocked by Evandro. And I thought as soon as they served Anders that it was game over. Evandro and Arthur, they come back to win, lose an incredible final to Stefan Bormans and New York de Groot, who I think are a top 5 team in the world right now. Big congrats to them for winning. Anders and Christian, they come back to win bronze in spite of Anders cramping out in that final. Gave a really funny interview with my guy Kyle Friend after. But I think Anders and Christian are playing about as well as I've seen them in a long time. They look healthy. They look kind of this renewed, and not a joy for the game, a renewed focus on the game and winning, which is a scary thing. And I think that their new coach, I don't want to over credit Adrian because you're giving Anders and Christian, you're giving a Ferrari, yeah, you're going to drive it pretty fast. But they look different, and it's scary for everyone else to see, fun for me to see in my position as a media guy and a commentator. Then we have 6 months left for World Champs qualifying. So just as I did with the Road to Paris, I'm going to be providing updates on the race to qualify for Adelaide, the World Championships. That'll be later this fall. And so how it is going to work, you take your best 6 finishes from the 2025 season, from the first event of the year up through October 5th, which follows a challenge in Mexico. So to me, the women's USA race, we got 3 locks. Kristen and Taryn could pretty much take the rest of the year off, and I think they'd still qualify. Kelly Chang, Molly Shaw, I think they're a lock. And then you have Megan Kraft and Therese Cannon. Pretty sure that they are a lock, which brings it that 4th spot. So it's a country quota. You're allowed 4 teams. I think Lexi Denenberg and Julia Scholes, they're in contention. Tony Rodriguez and Kylie DeBerg, they're in contention. Haley Harward, Molly Phillips, bit of a dark horse, they're in contention. And then you got Brooke Bauer and Maddie Anderson also, to me, in contention. And right now it's actually Brooke and Maddie in that last spot. And I'm curious. I'm curious to see how that race is going to unfold. And you can see who has sort of prioritized the World Tour over qualifying for the AVP League, and it'll be interesting to see how that race plays out. So that race, I'll be covering it at SANDCASTvolleyball.com. We're trying to sort of renew beach volleyball coverage as Volleyball Mag changed ownership hands, and so Lee Feinswag is sort of out of that. And I said, if Lee's not there, I'm not there, so I don't really do anything with Volleyball Mag, and so just trying to bring up SANDCAST website to basically be the new daily digital source for all things volleyball. Obviously, that doesn't really start for me until after Florida State's main season is over and I can more focus on the media side of things. Now, as for the men for that World Champs race, you got Chase Budinger, Miles Evans, think that they're going to be pretty close to a lock. Then you got Miles Partain, Andy Benish. I think they're going to be pretty close to a lock. Kame Schock and James Shaw, I'm not going to give that lock or Sharpie, as I said in the Road to Paris. Not going to give that to them yet, but they're looking pretty dang good. And then you have this 4th American spot, which might be earned as it was the last time World Champs happened in Mexico via a NORCECA qualifier. And so the way that qualifier works is there's going to be an on-site qualifier in Manhattan Beach, or not on-site, a local qualifier in Manhattan Beach. It'll be a single elimination tournament usually. The winner of that gets the bid to go to wherever in NORCECA they're having the final qualifying tournament. If you make the semifinals, you punch your ticket to World Champs. And that's how it's going to go for all the continents, for Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, South America. And that's how I believe that's how Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander actually earned their bid last time, is they beat Puerto Rico to punch their ticket to go to Tlaxcala, Mexico. And I don't know if we'll get all 4 teams via points. It's got to be at that top 25 by October 5th. I think that the men will need that last NORCECA bid. I don't think the women will. So that's it for this episode, the solo episode of SANDCAST. Appreciate y'all being with me. I will be in Gulf Shores this weekend. We'll take all the good vibes we can get for Florida State. Let's go Noles. Hope you guys have a great week. Shoots.